This talk is it's a fun one. I think it's we're going to start with the new ideas that came in the Enlightenment and seized the hearts of men, and John Locke kind of organized them into a coherent thesis. And they were the ideas of a liberal democracy, and what it brought to the earth that was new and vibrant and exciting was a concept that all men are created equal, and that the government serves the people, not the people serving the government. New, beautiful concepts, and the United States was born out of that. The revolutions that came in the United States and in France. So the United States was born out of that in 1776, and in 1789 the French Revolution began based on these ideals, and it went on until 1799. And the concepts that came in this time in part of the liberal democracy were that we should have elections, that multiple distinct political parties should exist, that there should be a marketplace economy with private property, that there should be rule of law, separation of powers into branches of government. These were the ideals of that day. And so the revolution happened in France in 1789. It went on. The government that came into creation during that time went on. In the last few years of what they call the Arab French Revolution, there was the Reign of Terror, and in that 16,000 people were executed for political reasons. And so Napoleon has a coup in 1799 and takes over the country and forms a government. And Napoleon, he's a patchy character, right? There's controversial, and he's patchy in his acceptance of these ideals as it relates to the Enlightenment liberal democracies. But one thing he did believe in, and he does adhere to, is that all men are created equal. And so he invites the Jewish leadership to come and talk to him. And the Jewish question, that was a question in Europe. What are we going to do with this ancient anti-Semitic kind of lines in the sand we've drawn? And he says to them, the Jewish leadership, if you guys will be Frenchmen first and Jews second, then I'm going to let you be citizens. And they said absolutely, and they were made citizens. And so that was the first time that had happened in 1,500 years, over a millennium, is they were equal. They were equal with everybody else in Europe. There was no more ghettos, no more yellow emblems, no more market segregation. You guys can do or be or whatever you want. And so they were equal. And just like that, with the stroke of a pen, it was a miraculous thing that had happened for the Jewish people. And so that exists and is the lay of the land even after Napoleon is defeated. And so you fast forward to the late 1800s, and you have this Jewish captain. His last name was Dreyfus, and he is arrested for communicating military secrets to the Germans. He's accused of treason. And they have a trial, and he is found guilty. But it's a very public, it's in all the newspapers. Journalism plays a big part in the story of the Dreyfus affair. And so he is sent to the French Guiana, to a penal colony, and the country is divided because half of the country believes that this is an anti-Semitic witch hunt, and the other half of the country believes that he's guilty. And so it's a divisive thing. And then a couple of years later, some evidence surfaces that in fact another gentleman had perpetrated this crime, and they have another trial for the man who is now accused of doing these things, and he's found innocent. And in the course of that trial, they accuse Dreyfus of a bunch of more stuff. So they bring him back to Paris, and they have another trial, and he is convicted again of these crimes. But it has ripped the country apart. in such a deep and significant way that the government decides to pardon Dreyfus. And Dreyfus is returned to the military, and he goes on to have a fight in World War I, retire as a lieutenant colonel. And in 1906, evidence surfaces that he was actually innocent. He's completely exonerated. But the reason why this Dreyfus affair is so significant is because it impresses upon a young man. He's a Hungarian Jewish man who was sent to Paris and covers the Dreyfus affair, and his name is Theodor Herzl. And during this time, he has a realization that if these deep levels of anti-Semitic behavior and thoughts and sentiments still exist in France after 100 years past the revolution, 100 years of all men are created equal, and the French were trying. It was the most free place for Jews to live, and if it still exists at this level in this nation, he came to believe that anti-Semitism will always be present unless we have our own country. And he writes a book that is the beginning of Zionism, and he, before his death, is credited with being the father of the modern state of Israel.